There is just something so innately special about fast wagons. The primitive idea of taking something so utilitarian, like a station wagon, and turning it into a straight-line beast is just so out of the norm, yet so respectable, that everybody seems to love them. And while the Germans today are the aforementioned kings of the high-performance wagon segment, the Americans have historically built some of the baddest V8 muscle wagons ever, back in the height of the muscle car era, when gas was cheap and horsepower was plentiful. Manufacturers offered a handful of seriously quick wagons for sale for the general public to buy, and since wagons were so heavily used for daily driving duty, very few of these old-school wagons remain on the road today. And what you'll soon find out is that a lot of these high-performance muscle wagons were already super low production to begin with. From Chevrolet to Plymouth, here are 5 of the most insane American factory-built wagons ever made. Number 5. The 1973 Chevelle 454 SS wagon. Now, most people seem to stop caring about the Chevelle after the 1972 model year, because this was when the body style of the car radically changed into its new big bumper design. That didn't make it a bad seller, though. In fact, this new generation and new body style of the Chevelle, which also encompassed the Laguna, in total sold over 1 million cars, including the 1973 Chevelle SS wagon. Allegedly, just about 1,500 of these wagons were made, and that encompassed both engine options. The base option for the SS cars were a small block 350 that could be spec'd out at 145 or 175 horsepower, depending on options, which did make it a muscle wagon by any means. But a very select handful of cars ordered in 1973 only could have came equipped with the 454 turbojet big block, backed up by a 3-speed automatic transmission or a super rare 4-speed manual option. With the 454 in it, these Chevelle SS wagons still made 245 horsepower and nearly 400 foot-pounds of torque stock, which for 1973 was still quite good, especially when considering these new Chevelles now had a much better chassis underpinning them compared to their more desirable older brothers. Pair that 4-speed with the 454 and a rear-facing jump seat, and you got yourself a very ample family hauler that could still lay down some mean black marks on the pavement. Although we never saw any of those marks because it's estimated that only around 70 or so 454 powered SS wagons were built in 73, and we have no idea how many of those cars were 4-speeds, but the chance is it was only a handful number 4. The 1957 fuel-injected Nomad, aka the Fuelie. Now, as far as wagons and shooting brakes go, the Chevy Nomad is up there as one of the most iconic and best-looking ones ever made. Its Tri-550 styling is timeless, especially when paired with its unique 2-door layout. Introduced in 1955, the Nomad initially launched with your choice of an inline-6 or a Chevrolet 265 cubic inch small block V8. The only problem, though, was that the top-of-the-line engine combo initially only made 180 horsepower. However, things would all change for 1957. This was the last year of the first-generation Nomad as we know it, and Chevrolet wanted to go out with a bang. For 1957 only, there was a very special 283 small block available in the Nomad that you could get that would bump power all the way up to a rapid 283 horsepower, making it reach that golden 1 horsepower per cubic inch rule. And that engine was the fuel-injected Ramjet 283. This fuel-injected option for the 283 small block featured all the bells and whistles that you would want lifted straight from a top-dog Fuelie Corvette and dropped into the Nomad. A 3-speed automatic and a 4-speed manual transmission were available with the 283 in the Nomad as well. But in total, for the 283 fuel-injected Nomads, there were just under 100 of these cars ever built. And today, they are some of the most sought-after GM collector cars out there, and they them trade hands. 3. The 428 and 429 powered Ford Country Squire wagons. When Chevy released their 454 powered Chevelle SS wagons, Ford could not let that discretion go unanswered, so they created the Ford LTD Country Squire wagon and equipped it with an optional 49 cubic inch V8 or a 428 cubic inch V8 depending on the year. From 1966 to 1968, the 428 was available in the Country Squire wagon, and that cranked out a very respectable 345 horsepower. Then in 1969, they switched over to the 429 as Ford did with pretty much their entire lineup. Albeit this 429 was not a Cobra Jet or a Super Cobra Jet, still would make around 320 horsepower for the two-barrel version and about 360 horsepower for the four-barreled 429 available in the wagon. What is especially cool about the Country Squire wagons, though, is that these were available with the optional wood paneling on the side. So not only was this a big block wagon, it was a big block woody wagon, which is way cooler. Unfortunately, no 4-speeds were offered with these cars from the factory, unless they were special ordered through somebody who had some pull at Fordand records show. Apparently there was one 428 4-speed Country Squire wagon built into tall with the front bench seat, rear bench seat, and the third row fold-down seats that faced each other, like in a Land Rover Defender. This muscle wagon was overall an 8-seater with a big block, and while hard to find, these were not specialty wagons per se. Therefore, compared to the other two vehicles I just mentioned before, these are still pretty affordable today. And they do come up for sale a lot more often than some of the other wagons listed here, which makes them really a great affordable option to actually get a running muscle wagon. Number 2, the 1970 Buick Estate with a 455. This wagon was very similar to the 1973 Chevelle SS 454 wagon because these were both one-year production-only options. In the curious case of the Buick Estate specifically, this car was only made for the 1970 model year on the GM B-body chassis, which it shared with the Impala, because for the next model year, Buick totally reworked the Estate wagon and put it onto the larger C-body chassis that underpinned various Cadillacs and larger vehicles. And for the one crucial year that it was built on the B-body platform, though, the 455 under the hood of the Buick Estate, it'd make an earth-shattering 3,170 horsepower and near 500 foot-pounds of torque. And the best part was that this was the only engine option available for 1970. If you wanted this Buick wagon, you had to get the big old 455 under the hood, which is just amazing. This thing even had Positraction Outback power brakes, power windows, and a handful of other really nice options were also available for these cars, and which made them near the top of the line for what a pseudo-luxury performance wagon could be. Have no idea what Buick was thinking when they made this and did all that work to totally change the wagon the next year, but is Urim glad that they did and that they made just over 20,000 of them. So these wagons are still out there today and are relatively affordable, much like the Country Squires. And last but not least, for our number 1 slot, we have the 383 4-speed Coronet and Belvedere wagon. It's only right that I included at least one Mopar on this list, and thankfully, it just so happens that we're going to lump a few of them together that span the lineup of Dodge and Plymouth. Now, there was a lot of these B-body wagons built throughout the lifetime of the B-body cars, but from 1964 to 1972, spanning the different body styles, there were a very select handful of 4-speed 383-powered wagons built in factory form on the Coronet and Belvedere. Now, finding actual production numbers on these is like finding a needle in a haystack, but it's definitely under 100 total factory 4-speed cars. These 383-powered wagons would have put out 300 horsepower stock, and they would have had ample torque to blow off the tires with a well-timed clutch dump, even with a full family inside. No production wagons ever left the factory with a factory 440 4-speed combo, which means that in terms of factory Mopar wagon performance, these handful of 383 4-speed cars were really where it all was at. One of these cars actually came up for sale around 8 years ago online, and it was in the form of a 1971 Coronet Crestwood, and I'll include the link down below to the write-up that barnfinds.com did on the car, but it's fascinating stuff. If you have any information on the handful of these 383 wagons, also please make sure to drop it in the comments down below. And those are the 5 ultra-rare American muscle wagons that you've probably never heard about. I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed the video, and thank you again for tuning in. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and smash that notification bell for more documentary-style videos just like this on the world's most interesting cars. Until next time, enthusiasts.